Okay, part 2 of In the Mix, 10 years of mixing advice in 10 minutes, part 2. We reacted, or I reacted to the first part because you wanted me to share the opinions, and there were some cool stuff in the video. Some things I agreed, some I disagreed, but let's see what the second one is all about.
Video that went a little bit viral, I shared some of the hardest lessons I've learned in the last 10 years in the music industry. It was a relatively short video and I had more points to get to if anyone wanted to hear them, so here we are again. Importantly, you don't need to have watched that video for this one to make sense. These are all new. Some of them are quick production tips and others are with you.
Let's start with the first one, and it is compression actually sounds more natural. What?
But I'm going to explain why sometimes it is more natural and actually more realistic to use heavy compression. So if I'm in a room talking to you and I move my head backwards and forwards a few inches or even move around the room a few feet, the level of my voice that you perceive is going to be quite consistent. It's going to vary a small amount, but for a few fairly complex reasons, including psychoacoustic reasons, you're going to perceive my voice at the same level. If, however, you're speaking or singing into a microphone, especially when it's close mic'd, moving the head even a few inches can change the level of the signal.
Okay, yeah, this point is about the thing we do in videos all the time, is compress or limit the hell out of the vocals. I'm not doing that as much, I have to say, because I just don't like the sound of also the room coming up as much and stuff like that. I think people will just make their phone or headphones a little bit louder. You can also talk louder if you do videos. That's something I had to learn as well, to speak like that and just not like I would maybe normally speak. But yeah, I would go with that point that in the videos, hard compressions, and also in songs, of course, hard compression and compression is one of the most important things ever.
Output by 5, 10 or 15 dB easily up or down, and that sounds incredibly unnatural. If I was talking to you and I move my head a few inches and I double or triple in volume, that doesn't sound natural or realistic at all. And it's because ears are very complicated, microphones are relatively very simple, so all of this boils down to don't assume that the raw, untouched signal from the microphone is actually the most natural and realistic representation of the sound that you're trying to record.
Yeah, true. Okay, so phase is not polarity. Yeah, I think that he got some feedback for the video, but yeah, we all know what he meant, and I already talked about phase, polarity stuff. Yeah, if you use kicks and snares to layer them and all that stuff, or if you record real drum sounds, real drum sets, of course you have to know what phase is, what polarity is. You don't want to cancel out sounds. You always want to have your sounds in phase in order to sound good. That's something that comes with experience, in my opinion. You just sometimes check the phase, even though you're not sure if it's out of phase or not. You just then check it for the mix, and then you know, okay, it works, and you go from there. Or over time, you also hear that something is out of phase and you can just fix it. Next point is MS and LR EQ. Oh, my opinion on that before I watch it. Amazing tools. Having an EQ that is left, right, like the Pro Q3 that I'm using. Sometimes it's really beneficial to have mid-side or left-right compression or EQ. In this case, he talks about EQ. I also made videos about that in the past where I had a piano track that is stereo, so left and right. And I only want to push up the high frequencies on the sides and maybe duck down some of the low frequencies in the mids, because there's playing the bass and the kick drum and stuff like that. So the use cases for MS or left-right, EQ and also compression is really there, and I use it a lot of times, I have to say that. Even for the whole mix or whole mix bus compression, whole mix EQing, if you use mid-side, left, right, it's very beneficial to the mix. Yeah, because you can really say, okay, I want to have the low frequencies in the middle, a little bit up, and not going also up on the sides where all the high frequencies, the guitars, maybe the backing vocals, the pianos and stuff like that are. He also uses the Pro Q3, of course.
EQ is shockingly underutilized, at least in my opinion. Setting an EQ band to affect just one part of the mix, left, right, mid-side, can create immediate width and depth in that track without having to rely on other stereo or widening effects, although those are really cool. But it's also a really quick and clean way to fix issues in a mix or master that might only be affecting one channel.
Oh yeah, in mastering they use that a lot because they cannot go into the individual tracks anymore if it's not stem mastering, and therefore it is nice to have like this restoration possibility.
So you don't have to apply the EQ to the entire stereo signal if the issue is only occurring in the right channel or the left channel. Something you could try, for instance, would be taking a synth and maybe boosting the mids or the bass in the mid channel so that you've got a nice thick and full sound, but then taking these side channels and making them a little bit airy and boosting the trebles. So
exactly what I told you.
Immediately, you've got a really clean way to add a lot of depth and width to that particular synth track. How that's going to sound in the context of a mix, who knows? But it's something fun to try, and it can sometimes be cleaner than loading on a bunch of other channel.
Windows are better. Does he talk about Windows against Mac computers, or Windows are better if you have daylight, maybe?
10 years in this industry has taught me that music studios without natural light or windows pretty much suck, at least for me. Unless it's a purpose-built facility, an incredible recording space that you go to, you pay for some session time in there, record your album. That's amazing. That's what those spaces are for. But working and living in one of these studios day in, day out doesn't work for me, and I don't think it works for the vast majority of people.
Okay, this is something I'm living for the last 10 years as well. So I'm here in the studio since 2014. I have windows, but it's a basement, so daylight is not really there. And my dream would also be to have like a curtain, and if I pull up that curtain, behind that is my garden with a swimming pool maybe, and the sun is shining, and I can just let in some daylight while I'm working, and then if I need to mix, I just close the curtain and have the acoustic treatment back in. That's a dream of mine, but I also love to be in my cave, I have to say. And yeah, if I need a break, which you also should do, I go for a walk with my dog, go outside and get some sun and vitamin D, or what it's vitamin D. And yeah, it's just his personal take. Everyone has preferences. Of course, daylight is amazing. We are humans.
Natural daylight is essential for your physical health, homeostasis, and your mental health. I recently made a detailed video about this. I went into a bunch of the science, but
I also have to say, if you have a dog, that's really one of the life-saving actions you could do. A dog, you have to go out at every weather, doesn't matter, 3 times a day, and you really stay on track. 10,000 steps a day is not an issue with a dog, you know.
But also, more importantly, I shared a bunch of practical advice for how you can feel a lot better while working.
Okay, next is think for yourself when buying products. Okay, I think he will go into affiliate marketing and stuff like that. So people suggesting you stuff and then you buy it. What's wrong now?
I find this one very interesting, and it's that marketing often focuses on completely unimportant details when trying to sell you some sort of product, piece of gear, software, and this goes for almost all industries, but I have a good example in the music industry based on loudspeakers. I happen to be in a unique situation of having
Okay, loudspeakers, they are always depending on your room, of course. My speakers, I even don't know if there are better speakers out there in the same price range as mine that would be a lot better for me and make my mixes better. But to be honest, you cannot, maybe you can, but you cannot order 50 pair of speakers in your studio, test them out and send all back. And I mean, that's the preferred way, but I would say if you have some good speakers in a treated room, and the treated room is the most important thing, then yeah, just get to know your speakers. If you know your speakers, same with headphones. You can mix on headphones if you know them. Listen to other music, let them work in. So when you buy them new, leave them running with music on just a little bit louder than you would normally listen, maybe, and just get them to work and get to know them. Listen to your favorite songs, all that good stuff. And then listen to your heart and your soul if the speakers are good for you.
Literally thousands of either products, pieces of gear, software presented to me or offered to me, or being asked to support a product in its launch. Now, the overwhelming...
That's even something I, with 15,000 subscribers, have to deal with, because companies are contacting me all the time. And right now I'm just, if I sell something, then it's my own product and courses that I have. Or if I want to play a guitar amp, then I ask them to send it to me to test it, but it's something that I want to do because I'm curious, or I want to play the stuff, or I buy it just simply. And then I show you only stuff that I'm really think it's great. And yeah, but there are always alternatives.
Majority of these I have refused over the years. It's interesting seeing the sorts of things many companies focus on when marketing to try and sort of mislead a consumer. And it's never by lying or anything like that. It's often just focusing your attention on something very unimportant. So I'll give you an example here. Almost all loudspeakers or studio monitors claim to have a completely flat or almost flat frequency response. So if that's the case, why do they all sound so vastly different?
That's true. But it also depends on your room, guys.
And anyone that's used 4, 5, 6 or more pairs of studio monitors know there's almost none that sound the same. So why do so many companies obsess over this flat frequency response? So I don't know the term for it, but it's some sort of false premise where these loudspeakers behind me, these are top of the range loudspeakers, they do have a completely flat frequency response, at least when measured in an anechoic chamber. In my room, of course, they don't sound completely flat, but that's not what makes them sound good. There's loads of other stuff in there. The time alignment of the drivers, the fact that the inside of those is an 100% analog design, hand-built in Switzerland. The cabinets and enclosures are incredibly heavy and they're sealed really well. There's all sorts of details that make those speakers good that are quite difficult to explain to a consumer. So other companies...
Yeah, okay, guys, of course, as I said, buy something, get used to it, and if you know it, you can work with it. Let's go to the next point. We need to talk about preventable hearing loss. Yes. Listen always. I have a dB meter here, and you should always mix in a loudness where you can have a conversation with someone else sitting next to you. That's the golden rule I have learned, and sometimes you want to mix a little bit louder from the volume perspective, but most of the time I'm listening in normal volumes, and I also use headphones and in-ears all the time, also for band rehearsals and studio recordings, because I can put in the noise cancelling, for example, with these headphones. I can listen to myself, to the guitar, and to the mix in a very convenient loudness, and I don't have to damage my hearing. Yeah.
Sometimes it's a no. This one is difficult to talk about, but it's that hearing loss and damage, I think, is a massive point of stigma and shame in this industry, and I think none of us talk about it enough. It's probably no exaggeration to say I've heard thousands, if not tens of thousands, of different discussions about gear, hardware, software, what's the best this, what's the best that. And I know that I've also contributed to this stuff, trying to rank gear, review gear. Yet I've probably come across less than a dozen discussions about hearing loss, hearing damage, and improving your hearing over time, which is crazy because it's really the only thing that matters in this industry. There's so much incredible science and, information out there about protecting your hearing, about hearing loss, spotting the signs of hearing loss in this industry. If you start talking about maybe losing your hearing, we think that somehow devalues us in this marketplace and that we're not.
But there are great things at this day and age with hearing, get you help for your hearing and stuff like that. So I would not say it's a shame, but I know what he means. I know what he means in the case of if you say I have hearing loss, then people maybe downgrade your ability to mix a song, for example. So that could be the case, but it's like with eyesight. I mean, I have a very hard disease called keratoconus, and I'm only able to see with my contact lenses, big contact lenses, scleral lenses. And if I see with them like 100%, for example, then it doesn't matter if I have them in my eyes or not. Important is only that I can see. And it's the same with the hearing, I think. And you have to protect your hearing. That's, of course, important, as you have to protect your body and your soul and all that stuff.
Worth maybe hiring or working on a song or a project with. I did want to share some of the signs of hearing loss with you.
Okay, if you want to go to the video, I will put it in the description, and you can check out the topic in depth with the hearing loss. Yeah, good video, good points. You have to decide for yourself. This whole thing is a journey, and once you get the gist out of it, what your opinion is, and you have some experience, then you can decide for yourself. I would say get someone that is inspiring to you, that you look up to, that makes music you want to do, that explains it the way you want to have it. Learn from them, learn from more than one person, and then you become your own. Once you are an established producer, musician, whatever you want to be, you have your own mind and your own options to grasp from. But never stop learning. And as I said, if someone tells you that's the only way to do it, it's wrong. But if someone tells you that's the way I get amazing results and you like the results, then implement it. Right, guys, maybe we should do stuff like this more in the future, maybe also in a live stream, because now I always get those messages, comments and stuff like that. What's my opinion on something? Go to brufiomusic.com/gift. I give you some free gifts, drum samples, Cubase sessions, perfect vocal guide, mixing guide, a lot of cool stuff. So check it out, brufiomusic.com/gift. We see us in the next video, guys.